Hey, thanks again for joining us. So we're here just for our daily devotional, and I just want to say I really appreciate the way you have engaged with these, the way the comments that you've given, the time you've dedicated to it. Last week we spent time talking about the positive side of this. We talked gratitude on Monday, and Tuesday we talked about lament, about expressing some of our sorrow. Today I want to talk about solitude, because as we looked about some things that we can be grateful about that's going on around us, or talking about some things that caused us some sorrow. Now I guess I want to talk about the opportunity, if that's the right word, that is sort of presented with ourselves. And what I said yesterday is that I know that you are isolated. And I mean, if your scenario was like my scenario, I am isolated with 5 people, so it's sort of solitude. Maybe you are isolated in your house where it is just you. It's just you and the odd trip to the grocery store, and you're very much isolated. But there is a difference between being alone or isolated and engaging in solitude. Have you ever noticed, as you look through the Gospels, that Jesus consistently retreats to, depending on the English version you use, to those lonely places? I mean, those places where he could be by himself, where he would pray, reflect, and then make these decisions about what's going to happen next. At the very beginning of his ministry, when he heals people and a town is beginning to fill up, and his handful of disciples that are around him at the moment are encouraging him to stay and do more. They went looking for him, but he had scooted out early in the morning to a solitary place, to be with just him and God, to think about, to pray about what's going to come next. When he picks his disciples, all of his disciples, he scoots out to a solitary place to reflect, to pray. Before his ministry began, he spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, in solitude. Right before he goes to the cross, he spends time in solitude with God. It's not a practice that we do a lot naturally. Now some of you are extroverts, and this alone time, this forced solitude is driving you nuts. Some of you are introverts, and you're experiencing it a little bit easier, but you are still missing your normal spaces to be outside of your home. But again, this is a little bit different than being alone. This is about you taking a moment of your time and deliberately being alone with you and God. Where you want to focus, reflect, think about him, connect. Where you're asking those questions, not in a gleeful way or a sorrowful way, but you are just reflecting on what can I experience from God right now. Now, I find when I want to practice this kind of solitude, because I'm a fidget, that I find it difficult to do it while sitting still. When I want to practice this kind of contemplative reflection, this kind of solitude, I'll often do it when I'm washing dishes. My hands are engaged, and it's instead of popping on a podcast or listening to some music, I can reflect on the presence of God around me while I am alone in my kitchen, with just me and a handful of plates that need to get dealt with. You can do it at any point. Find a spot in your house where you are most comfortable, where you are alone. And again, maybe that's your whole house. Maybe you have some people and you need to pull away. You find a spot where you're going to be alone for 10 minutes. Set a timer if you are really new to this. So that way, you don't have to bother looking at a clock or looking at a watch. You just know when 10 minutes passes, a little alarm is going to go off. But quiet yourself. Still yourself. Reflect with God. Know that all of the hustle and bustle that we are typically doing has come to a screeching halt. And so much of our identity is tied up in the hustle and bustle that we do, in the activities that we do. But you are more than a calendar. You are more than a collection of activities that you do. You are a person who has been fearfully and wonderfully made, who is beloved by God, and who wants to spend time with you. And your calendar, if it is anything like my calendar, is suddenly remarkably open. All of those normal appointments that you have probably fallen by the wayside, at least somewhat. So schedule in 10 minutes at some point today. If 10 sounds scary, just take 5. 5 minutes where you are quiet in solitude with you and God. I can't promise you the world. I can't promise you it'll change your life, but it is a practice that if you engage in consistently, I think changes the way that you look at life. It changes the way you engage with life. I would love it if you take some time to do this today. If you want to circle back and comment that it's something you did, I would love to be able to read that and see what that's like for you. Or if you want to fire off an email or a Facebook message or any of the ways you can get a hold of us at Stevens Road, we would love to see those stories. Solitude is difficult. Isolation is difficult. But you are not alone. You're not alone. And being able to have those moments with God can be a great reminder that even if your house seems empty, you're not alone. That's it for me today. Pastor Aaron is going to take over tomorrow to be able to talk a little bit more about solitude. And then we're just looking forward to seeing you again on Sunday morning for a sermon about Jesus' upside down kingdom on Sunday. So thanks so much. That's it for me today.